Thanks for joining us today on our 30-minute expert series of 5 tech advantages your field leaders will love. In a challenging labor market, technology can make your company more profitable and also a more rewarding place to work. For today's webcast, we'll explore specific examples of how technology makes life easier for project managers, foremen, craft workers, while making them more efficient, productive, and profit-focused. Now, before we get going here today, just a couple of introductions. First of all, my name is Scott Adams. I'm a solutions engineer here with B2W. Been with the company going into 3 years now. I was also a product trainer. Prior to that, I was actually a client of B2W's where I implemented the full suite of products and used it on a day-to-day basis. Joining me as well today is Tom Willey, senior solutions engineer here with B2W. Tom has been with the company for 15 plus years now, has manned up the implementation and training groups. And Tom will be more in the background today, manning the questions area as you utilize the panel on the webinar screen. While you do submit questions for us, keep in mind we're going to do our best to answer those as we move through the webinar. But sometimes those questions may be a little bit more specific to the business setup as you're using it, or would use it in the future. And in those cases, we may take those offline and respond directly to you. Now, for a session overview today, what we're going to have a look at on the webinar, we're going to go through a quick B2W operational suite overview and discuss the various elements associated with it. We'll then quickly touch on those 5 tech advantages your people in the field will love to use on a day-to-day basis. From there, we'll actually go into a live look at the B2W mobile, the B2W employee, and B2W Inform apps and the functionality associated with each one of those. And then we'll wrap up the end with a Q&A session on any of those questions you may have based on the functionality we review. Now, for people who are joining us today who are not familiar with the B2W operational suite as part of the B2W One platform, or for those that are not using multiple elements, we're going to quickly have a look at what those modules do for our field operations. First of all, the operational suite itself leverages data from one SQL database. We don't have multiple databases to maintain between the different elements. So when it comes to information like your employees, your equipment, materials, jobs, etc., there's only that one area to manage. This not only allows for standalone use of the modules within the one platform, but the ability to add modules on to enhance workflows with minimal effort later on down the road. This also allows for real-time collaboration between the different elements or modules to assist our operational groups within the business on a day-to-day basis. And this we will actually see as part of the demonstration. And then finally, those data-driven decisions that can be made with the continuous visibility of the daily information submitted for review and reporting, which we will also see on the demonstration end of things. Now, the actual elements themselves are on the screen here in front of us. We have B2W Schedule for a resource scheduling and dispatching tool, allowing us to manage our crews, our resources, our employees, and equipment across our active job sites, both where they're currently working or in the future if we need to look in the past. B2W Track, which is our production analysis and tracking tool, allowing us to create those electronic logs, view that information in real time, and make those data-driven decisions based on the reported data coming back from the field. B2W Maintain, our asset maintenance and repair module, not only help us manage preventive maintenance against our piece of equipment, but also those break fix scenarios to ensure that our fleet stays up and running and as productive as possible for our crews out there. And then finally, B2W Inform, our data collection and analysis tool, essentially taking any paper process you may have in the field currently, transferring that into an electronic format, deploying that to the field so that they could submit as part of their roles and responsibility as required as well. Now, overall, that is the operational suite of the One platform. For our webinar today, obviously, we're going to have a look at the 5 tech advantages your field leaders will love when using the various elements. First, we'll have a look at the electronic logs that we can make as part of the one platform to make it faster and easier to record labor hours and other performance data on a daily basis and submit that information back in real time for review. We'll also have a look at how that data drives reporting and compares that actual information to planned or budgeted information to help motivate the crews on a daily basis to stay as productive as possible. We'll then look at communicating potential resource needs from the field that go to our scheduling group and dispatchers, and also the ability to actually view that schedule while we are working in the field as well. Managing equipment repair requests electronically, being the starting point for our maintained use within the one platform in the shop to start the workflow through the shop and help us manage the equipment as well. And then finally, those paperless inspections and safety processes that we're able to submit on a daily basis as required through the Inform side of things. So those are the 5 tech advantages that we're going to have a look at. From here, we're actually going to move away from the world of PowerPoint and go directly into the live demonstration within our mobile apps. So I'm going to bring into the screen here now a third-party piece of software that allows me to display my tablet on screen for us. And on the screen are those 3 mobile apps that we're going to be having a look at. We'll first start out in the B2W employee app. Here's where we're able to create those electronic field work logs for our individual employees out there in the field. Now, this mobile app can be deployed on both a tablet and a smartphone, right? So upon downloading that from our app store, whether it's an iOS or Android version, the synchronization and the actual login will be based on our user information associated with that on our server. Our employees open up the app, would just have to log in through a PIN number to be able to access and fill out their daily information. Now, one thing to keep in mind when we are using this app in the field, if we are in a situation where we do not have internet connectivity, we would still be able to log in, enter in our day's activities, and then synchronize that back up at the end of the day once we do have that connectivity, either at home or back in the shop with the internet connection. Now, in terms of filling out today's work log for this individual employee, I would just select that option here from my screen. We can either create a new work log from scratch, which is the top option, or if we're working on the same job, maybe regularly as an independent employee, and want to copy that same information in, potentially the same production accounts and the same equipment we're using, the copy functionality is available here for us as well. But for a new work log created, we're going to walk through the information area that first associates a work start date for us, as well as the times, both start and end date for the day. That individual employee as I'm logged in as for reporting those hours. And if I need to, select a supervisor from my list within my database who's going to maybe review and approve my daily work log. Applying this information overall now allows us to actually add the activities or information based on our work for the day. So through my little plus symbol in the lower right-hand corner, and then selecting to add an activity, I can now go through adding from the job list within my database of active jobs, as well as those production accounts or tracking accounts within the job. And once those have been added, it's a matter of reporting the total hours for the day on the log for both myself, and if I am adding any equipment, the option to select that piece of equipment from my equipment list. And as you notice here, as soon as the equipment was added to my work log, it automatically applied the same hours from a labor perspective as well. Now, keep in mind, we know in certain situations, obviously these hours may not match. Via the pencil option over here to edit that equipment information, we could go through and update as required on the work log itself. But then applying that from a job, production account, and hour perspective, it's just a matter of now of potentially reporting any quantities by coming back into the job and the actual production account itself. And in this case, the 25 cubic yards of material that I moved around today, And then potentially adding any unpaid time. If I was going to report lunch breaks as part of my individual work out there in the field, I could easily add that in here as well by entering the time and adding a note as to what that was. Now, before validating submitting this, we can also sign off on our hours right here for the day. And the sign off functionality still allows us to answer any organizational questions we may have associated with our time in the field. Did we do our own safety meeting? Did we have our lunch break? And were we injured? Those would be required to be answered before we then sign off on our actual hours and apply that back to the work log itself. Now, with everything completed on my daily work log, I can then go through that validation and submission process and synchronize this up to the server and get notification that has been successfully sent back for review. So again, that's for our individual employee going through our employee app within the mobile side of things. If we move away from that right now and come into the B2W mobile app in the middle of our three here, this app is going to be used more from a crew-based perspective, right? So with a foreman leading a specific group of people out there, it's going to actually allow our foreman to log in and then enter their information in for the daily activities. So much like the employee app, again, full functionality to be able to work in a disconnected mode, remote job sites, not able to sign in or actually connect and synchronize. Also, don't necessarily have to associate an individual device with a user. If we have a shared pool of devices we're going to sign out upon going to the field, we would just find our name from the list here, select that, and then log in via our PIN. Now, once our foremen sign in here, in front of us are all the field logs, maybe that we as foremen have submitted in the past. If we're someone that's required to review and approve field logs, a supervisor, a project manager, we could still give full functionality here on the mobile device as well to allow them to do that. Now, also before we create our actual field log, we can interact with the other elements right here on the mobile device as well. And through our menu in the upper left-hand corner, options now allow us to interact with the scheduling module to not only view our schedule, but submit needs of equipment or labor types out in the field as we're working on our jobs on a daily basis. And if I did want to review my schedule while I am in the field, one thing to keep in mind here, when we do access this area on the mobile device, it does require an internet connection, because we are actually looking at the live information on our server, and every track user has a read-only license associated with schedule when they are using the mobile app to create their field logs in the field. I can expand my information here. I can look at where Austin's paving crew is going over the next week in time here to see all the different job sites. I can also expand underneath the crew and see the employees, the equipment, and any other information the dispatcher or scheduler may have created for me, like as you see here, production targets, as well as those material orders that I may pull into my field log. But once I'm done with the review here now, I can come in here and actually create a new field log. So via the option in the upper right-hand corner, whether it's a blank field log from scratch or copying from my last field log to pull different information in. Again, because we're able to review the data and using schedule to create our assignments with our resources in it, we can also then create our field log from that information. And selecting to create the field log from schedule gives us the different options of details that we're going to pull into the daily log, like the jobs, accounts, employees, equipment, and so forth. And quickly through a create button here, now it gives me the ability to fill this out as the supervisor or field leader or foreman running the crew. So working my way through the field log, again, general information section where I may be required to select my supervisor. Customized fields here that we are allowed to add to the actual field log, where we could type in a daily diary of information of what's happened, either via text box, drop down, or from a notes perspective, taking advantage of the device functionality when we do have an internet connection or an updated operating system to use the speech to text functionality and just talking into the tablet itself and having it transcribe for us. Productive day with lots of activity on site. And saving that to the log. But once I enter in those details, dropping down now into my grid view gives me the visibility in terms of what I brought in from schedule, the job with that production account on it, an actual target of tonnage that was created in there as well, essentially the goal for the day to maybe help me plan how we're going to go about meeting that, as well as the employees and the equipment that we're reporting on for the day. So at this point, it's just a matter of entering in quantities associated with my tonnage, and in this case, 250 ton of asphalt, as well as either tapping on the individual cells for my labor or my equipment, or highlighting all the cells by selecting the grid icon at the top of the column, and then entering in those hours for both my employees, and even copying that quickly down to the equipment, and essentially filling out my daily time card. Now, again, at this point, we could absolutely add anything we needed to from the day. Maybe we worked on a different production account. Maybe we had a new employee or a new piece of equipment show up. Foremen still have full control over the information, even though we scheduled it or brought it in from schedule. We could also enter in quantities in a number of different areas here as well. If we are looking at the materials down the left-hand side, and any other information that we've added to the field log that may cover a different cost category like trucking, subcontractors, or miscellaneous costs. I can also add attachments, right? So again, whether I'm taking a picture from the actual device itself or adding to from the library, this attachment will always be part of the actual field log itself going forward for review. But then at this point, we can validate and submit this back. But before we actually move away from the field log, again, having visibility in terms of our productivity side of things, through our summary area at a field level, our foreman now can actually see compared information from estimated to the actual we reported. And those variances, in this case, from a red line that goes across on each of those items, shows that I didn't meet my expectations, and I may be having a discussion associated with that with a PM or an operations manager. Now, also at a field level, if we choose to turn on and show cost information, we can actually display the impact overall based on the work that we've done today from a cost level. But then coming back to the actual field log area itself, if I am a supervisor or project manager, I can actually not only view that information within the field log, again, directly from my mobile app with that internet connection, I could go right into the jobs area itself here from my device. And in any of these jobs, when I open it up, I have access to those job dashboards that you may need to see and review as well, based on the field log information being reported. Or I could also scroll down here and run any of the in-job reports, whether it's a cost detail report that's going to give us cost information across all of our tracking accounts based on date ranges that we've selected. So we have visibility to compare estimated versus reported quantities and cost detail over that time range. Or if we wanted to look more at a production report, right, the productivity summary on the job, where we focus more on the man hours associated with the work done and compare that back to the estimated information as well. Again, full functionality right here on our mobile device. Also, as a foreman in the field, we did touch on the fact that we can view our schedule here. If I am working on a job site for the day and I need a different labor type or a different equipment type on the job site to make sure I stay productive, from our needs request area here, actually sending a request directly back to our dispatchers. So the new need that I'm going to submit here now for that piece of equipment is going to require me to enter information of the job that we're working on, and then the equipment type. And in this case, if I want to search my list down for that backhoe, that's going to help me in terms of the excavation side of things. I'm quickly and easily able to find that, select how many I'm going to need on site, and even the date I'm going to need it. And we'll say that for tomorrow, I'm actually going to need that backhoe on site to help me out. Some other default information in terms of the duration for the day and who's requested it. But then at this point, again, a validation and submission process would send this need request directly back to our schedulers so that they could backfill that with the appropriate equipment. And then finally, as we are still working out in the field, working with those equipment on a daily basis as the leader of the crew, a lot of times we may run into situations where the piece of equipment breaks down on us. We can actually initiate the process from our mobile device as well through a repair request when we are using maintain as part of our operational suite. And selecting the repair request area does give us visibility into all the requests that have been generated if we choose to do so on all of our pieces of equipment. But creating a new request in here, obviously leveraging the fact that we have our equipment list on our database and quickly able to search that for a specific piece, not only gives us visibility of any outstanding repair requests that are on this piece of equipment, so that potentially we don't double up back to the shop, but then the option to create a new request. And this new request associated with what happened to this piece of equipment for today. Maybe we had a broken window associated with our time and work in the field, and we would enter in the description. I then select the type of request it's going to be, and this type is going to be generated based on the list that I have access to within the maintain side, as well as the priority associated with it. And obviously everything coming from the field is a high priority. We need to make sure we call that out for the shop right away as well. From here, we can add comments as to what happened if we want to, associated with a piece of equipment. And maybe it was a rock that struck the window, so that the foreman in the shop or the shop coordinator would be able to review that and be aware, as well as, again, add an attachment such as a picture associated with that break. So once we save all the information to a repair request, we can then go through the same validation submission process, and upon synchronization of the tablet, all the details will be sent back to the shop manager, shop coordinator, and they would start their workflow through the repair process. So that's looking at our B2W mobile app for our crews in the field and the foreman leading those. If we move away from here, we are finally going to finish up with our B2W in format. And this again allows us to fill out those paper forms in electronic version now. They may be the equipment inspections, they may be the safety forms we're required to complete, but logging into this app here as well will still give us access to do that right on our mobile device. And again, going through the app, much like the employee app, available for both the tablet and the smartphone, also available to be able to work in a disconnected mode. So again, no internet required here to still complete or fill out any of the forms we need to do so. So from an equipment inspection perspective, again, entering in the form itself, selecting now from our list of equipment that we're actually going to complete the inspection on. In this case, my pickup truck will then require me to fill in the details associated with the inspection, like the date and the time that we initiated this, any hour meters or odometers that we need to submit associated with the inspection as well. And then just working our way through the list of items, whether they apply to us or not, via the radio buttons associated with it. Not applicable, okay items, or anything that may be requiring a repair via the RR side of things. Continue to work down through the different items here. Would then bring me to an area that if I did have any defects on here, I could explain what exactly the defect was. Maybe I had a broken tail light from my time on site today, and I could enter the defect in there. I can say based on the form that a repair or adjustment is going to be needed associated with that. I can even once again add a picture. And again, if that picture is stored on my device, quickly brought in, that'll always remain as part of this form we filled out. Below here, we can select then the operator who has completed the inspection, as well as, again, give the signature and submit that as well. Now, at this point, based on our use of Inform, we could absolutely submit this back to the office and have that information there for us to review and remain as part of the equipment history on that database. But also, again, leveraging the fact that we have built the connection point between the two elements, we can go through the process of actually creating a repair request directly from this inspection as well. Right? So if we're not using track in the field, leveraging Inform and the fact that we have maintained being used within our shop, whenever I go to complete this form here, that functionality will automatically bring me to a repair request now. And again, at this point, I just go through and fill in the various pieces of information like the type associated with the request. Again, the high priority for my value in the field, as well as if we're coding any of these as a starting point, and based on those problem codes that we have defined, we can go through the process of adding that. The notes have pulled through from the defect, and I can also add that attachment as a picture to the actual repair request as well for viewing on the shop's end. And then finally, upon completion, I can confirm that that is going to be set up. The form is ready to sync, and when the databases do synchronize between Inform and my operational suite, that repair request will be created for our shop to start picking up and manage on their end. So from our mobile device here and through the 3 apps, we have actually performed a lot of different functionality to summarize our 5 tech advantages your field leaders will love. I'm going to move away from my mobile side of things again. I'll come back to the world of PowerPoint. And again, just to look at those different items we did touch on, the electronic field logs via the employee or the mobile app itself, the daily reporting capabilities, not only within the field log, but also being able to access directly from the tablet itself. Also communicating those needs to the dispatcher or scheduler and making sure that they can backfill those as required. Managing any repair requests that go into the shop, as well as those paperless inspections or safety documentation from the Inform side of things. So overall, those are the 5 tech advantages. Please keep an eye out for our next webinar sometime next month to join us again for another session like this. Also, if you require any information on any of the functionality that we've looked at here today, here's the details for both our sales and our support department. I guess I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us here today and hope you have a great rest of your afternoon.